Welcome to From Head to Heart and Home, a channel for women, created by women to help you create the life you want. With your host, Shanda Ceretti, Certified Coach, and Carla Center Subconscious Healer and Relationship Coach. We are so excited to have you listening on our conversation today. And as usual, it's something juicy and fun. And we're going to call it risky business. Shanda, you want to expand on what risky business is?
Sure. I'm excited for everybody listening to this conversation. So what we're talking about is taking a risk on you, right? Taking a risk on yourself, doing the things that you feel called to do, but don't allow yourself to do them. And this is something that I like to refer to as the breadcrumbs, right? If we would only listen to those callings or pick up those breadcrumbs, we would much easier lead down that path to our true calling, our mission, our purpose, and feel fulfilled, right? Life would be very different. But you know, life is the way it is. We're humans, and we like to do things on our own terms sometimes with our own agenda, and sometimes we forget to take those risks. So that's really kind of what we're looking to open up and dive into today. Um, and so I think the most important piece of taking risk is really going to bat for yourself, right? And believing in yourself. You might not have all the steps, you might not even have the process yet, but trusting and knowing that there is a process that will help you create and support you in creating what it is that you want to create. But first, you must be willing to take that risk.
Right. And it can be anything. I mean, it could be relationships, it could be your career. I mean, there are so many things that we get these little breadcrumbs on for things that we want, and we don't necessarily acknowledge them.
Hmm.
Like the breadcrumbs I've been following for what I do for my business actually started when I was a teenager. Like somebody wanted me to join a class that was for medical professionals to learn, and all of my friends went to the hospital, and they're like to volunteer with babies and stuff, and I'm volunteering for a nonprofit helping people who are in some of the most sensitive points in their lives at 17 years old. And it was scary. Let me tell you, one of the first ones I ever took was, somebody in a very bad place, but my getting to help somebody was like, oh my gosh, this really is what I want to do, right? And I followed the breadcrumbs, and at first I was terrified. I'm like, I'm going to be on the phone by myself for usually there are 4 hours of chunks at a time. And people can call in for anything to just, something small, like what resources are in, to somebody being like, they're at the lowest point in their life and they need somebody to talk to.
Hmm.
And it was scary, but look at where I am now. Like, I wouldn't trade what has happened for anything because I love what I do. I love connecting with my clients. And it was a risky little breadcrumb. The same with when I quit my government job to be in business to work one on one with clients. Like,
Hmm.
that was a huge risk, especially when it was during the pandemic. So who knows? I had like the secure job, but the little breadcrumbs led me to where I'm at right now.
Yeah. Right. And you're kind of what you're bringing up for me and sharing that is that risk is experience, right? When we're willing to be risky and take that risk on ourselves, we're opening up to the possibility and of experience. And that is where growth happens. Being willing to take that risk is exactly how you grow and learn and expand. And I'm not saying you're going to knock it out of the park 100% of the time because you won't. That is not the point. As much as people aren't going to want to hear this, you actually don't want to knock it out of the park every time. And we don't know it all, right? So that's doesn't make sense. And so what it comes down to, I believe, is a belief in yourself, a belief in the universe, right? Whatever you believe in, maybe it's God, source, one, whatever it is for you, but having that belief that you're not alone, you know what I mean? Like you're meant to live the life that you want. Those aren't just dreams for fun, right? It also comes down to trust. like
Yes.
trusting that you have the capacity within you to create whatever it is that you want. And then it reminds me of like we want to control things so much all the time,
Yes.
but it's about releasing, being willing to let go, right? Like we've talked about this many times in the past where things are always changing and evolving, and that is life. That is life here on planet Earth, is change, evolution. Nothing is constant. And so in knowing that, it doesn't even make sense to try to control things and hang on to things, because if you think of something that's like revolving and going around in a circle, if you're trying to hang on to something, like eventually you're just going to be stretched out, right? Like it's not going to work. So we need to be open to releasing. So it's like a flow. It's like a flow of out and a flow of in, like breathing, for example. Our breath is such a perfect example of that. We breathe in, we pause at the top, and then we breathe out and we exhale and we pause at the bottom. But there's a constant in and out. We don't just go, and then that's it for the rest of our lives. One
Right.
breath. You know what I mean? Like that's just so getting into that flow of letting go of the control. And the way to do that is by having that belief and having that trust in yourself and the world around you.
And I love how you use breathing as about the flow, because the same with, if you think about our breathing, we have hiccups and all kinds of stuff that will
Yeah.
sneak in there, which we do with our risky business. Stuff sneaks in there, but that does not mean that our flow is stuck in that space that we don't like forever.
Hmm.
It might be a little frustrating, but once we get past it, we're so like relieved that we're past it and we're into this new spot. Same with risky business. So say that you're following the breadcrumbs and then something doesn't work out quite how you want, a control thing. It's not that you have failed. It just means that there's something new to it, something that needs to be worked a little bit. And when you get past that, how much do you appreciate things versus if it would have been so easy?
Hmm.
Think of it like when we're trying to walk across a sidewalk, you appreciate the sidewalk that has the bumpy spots when there's ice on it. You appreciate the bumps when it's going to help you get to where you want to be. Versus if you had a slid across that, you wouldn't have, it would got you there fast, but not the way you like it, right? And I think of it that way. Whenever I have bumps, I'm like, there's a reason why there was a little bump in the road. It
Hmm.
makes me appreciate, and maybe there's something better a little bit later, but I also made progress on the way there.
Yeah. Well, again, you're coming back to like that trust, the trusting the sidewalk. Those bumps are there for a reason. We're going to trust that. We're going to believe that it's for our advantage, right? So it's like looking at our lives and the things that come our way as the same thing. And going back to, I love the hiccup thing. That was brilliant, because what happens when we get our hiccups and we try to hold them in or like pretend like we don't have them? What happens is that we experience pain and discomfort in our body instead of like letting it just kind of be its crazy wild thing, either until you go seek out a resolution, right? So sometimes like, oh my gosh, there's so many things. Hold your breath, go upside down, be scared, whatever the thing is, right? So go find a resolution, or other people just wait it out, right?
Mhm.
There's no right or wrong answer, but if we look at how we approach just a simple thing, like when we have a hiccup, what do we do? Or if we have indigestion, or if we have acid reflux, like how do we treat those things? Are we proactive? Are we reactive? Do we take initiative? Do we let it run its course? How we do one thing is how we do most things, right? So coming back to like risky business, right? How do you take risks and where do you take risk in your life? Because we all do, right? There's like so many different areas in our lives. There are areas where we're willing to take risks, and then there are areas where we're not. So I would encourage everybody to kind of break that out and separate that out and find out, where are you willing? Like it's probably where you feel really confident. Like let's say you're just naturally athletic, you're more likely to take risks in that area. If somebody's like, hey, we need an extra player to play on our basketball team because we're short, do you want to come join us, like pickup style? Some people would be like, oh, like, no, I couldn't go play with a team I haven't played with, or I haven't played with forever, or I don't have the right clothes, or I'm not in shape, whatever the excuses are. Some other people might be like, yeah, sure, that'd be totally fun, and they're in, right? So where do you take risks? Where are you willing to take the risk, and where are you not? And it's likely in the area where you want the most growth is where you don't take the risk, which is fascinating because you think it would be the opposite. Because if growth equals risk or vice versa, then we should be inviting more risk into those other areas, like breathing life into those other areas, right? Allowing the hiccups to come and be what they are without
Right.
control, right?
Right. Because it's like having, because Shanda always talks about outdoors. I'm thinking about,
Mhm.
when you're gardening, when you find your plant that is struggling the most is the one that you want to give the most attention to. Is it easy? No, sometimes it's easy just to sit there and let the other ones just flourish. But if you really focus on it, so if you find that area in life where you're like, I want to grow in this area, but it can be difficult for me. The risks are there's a little more fear behind them. There's a little more fear of where I might stumble or what others might think about any judgment because we allow that in no matter how confident we are. We're like, ooh, what if somebody sees me stumbling? You know, but the more attention you give to it, the more it can flourish with everything else.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, where our attention goes, energy flows. So,
Mhm.
so long as we're bringing that positive energy, right? Like this is working for me. I'm trusting in the process, right? And letting go of the negative attachments or beliefs we might have, trusting and knowing that those are not going to bring the results that we want. And here's how you know that this is true. I am not pulling this out of smoke or thin air, right? If the negative beliefs that we constantly think all the time would bring us to the results that we want, we would already have what we want. Our lives would already be the way that we want them to be, right? There'd be no effort needed, but it does take effort. Even taking a risk. That's why we don't take risks. It takes an effort. We need to put that energy into it. But what you get out of it is that growth, is that experience, whether it works out exactly how you thought it would or whether it's something completely different. There's still so much gold in having that experience and being willing to put yourself outside of that comfort zone. That's what this really comes down to, again, right? Is that comfort zone. We feel something's risky when we're on the outside, when we're on the cusp of that comfort zone, on that threshold. And when we're in the middle, all hunky dory with all the things that we know, whether we like them or not, that's where we feel most comfortable, right? Just in the known versus the unknown. So it's like encouraging all the listeners, take those risks. Maybe make a list of or start making a list today of those times where you kind of feel, ooh, I want to do that, or oh, I'd love to try that. Write that down and see how many times you allow yourself to take that risk and how many times you talk yourself out of it, because that's all that's happening is we talk ourselves out of it and we backpedal. We backpedal because we don't think we'll be successful or we're fearful of what the outcome might be. So we're like, oh, I'd love to do that. And they're like, oh, wait a minute. What? No, 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 I didn't mean, I'm just I don't think I could do that because the time doesn't work out or I don't have the right thing or right? And then it's like no 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 no. You declared whether it was in your head or out loud that you wanted to do it. That's not for nothing, right?
Right. And one of the reasons why people have affirmations is because you start that negative talk. And when your breadcrumbs come along, you've convinced yourself that I can't do that. So you let it go. But if you start working on having some positive self talk in those moments, I got this, I can do this. Um, even like I used to, because I believe in God, I'd be like, God's got me as I went through the things. Find those moments, those things that you can tell yourself. If you can't grab it within you, whatever you believe is more powerful outside of you, focus on that because you've got
Mm,
this. We know you have. Anybody who has the things that you dream of has
yeah.
taken the risks. They've followed their breadcrumbs, and it has not been that smooth sailing for people. They
Yeah.
just don't present. I mean, that's part of social media, the media, all of that is that they smooth over all of those bumpy spaces, but you've got this. And everybody has moments of that negative self-talk, of that backpedaling. It's becoming aware of your own pattern of the backpedaling, of your self-talk, and going, okay, it's gotten me to where I'm at, and I don't want to be here. I want to go forward. I
Mm-hmm.
get to change things.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you're bringing that up too, because like when it comes to our journey, our healing journey, wherever anybody who's listening is at, including you and I, it's like things still happen, bumps still happen, hiccups still happen. Sometimes I
Mhm.
hold my breath for crying out loud. You know what I mean? Like it still happens and it will continue to happen. But it's like it's almost like you find a little bit more grace in the hiccups. You know what I mean? Like they become
Mhm.
a little more graceful. Not that hiccups can be, but so it's like take a risk on your healing. For those of you who haven't started or maybe press paused or maybe life completely derailed you from that, reconnect to that, right? Your journey is so important for your whole like your whole being, the whole reason of being here. And I think a really cool question, this is kind of playing off what you were just saying, Carla, is for people who might be struggling in taking those risks, if you're like, I don't know if I should, and it's just you're overrun by fear, you can simply ask yourself, what value could this opportunity, this experience lead to? Could like might what might come from this? What could come from this? It's like just by using those very specific words, you're opening up to opportunity, right? It's like you're exploring with curiosity as opposed to being shut down by fear. It's expansive as opposed to fear being contractive. And we need to be more willing and aware of getting out of the fear so that we can expand outward and
Right.
say yes to the things that we want to do and want to create, right?
Right. And if you think about it, even when you apply for a job, they like people with experience, right? It doesn't say who has positive experience, who has negative, any of that stuff, because they ask for experience because we learn from it. We learn
Mm,
from the experience we have. And if we have compassion for ourselves and know that some learning doesn't feel so great in the moment. It is still experience that we learned from that helps us grow, that gets us to another spot that we want to be, no matter
mm,
what part of our life we're in, right? Like I could have totally been like, my relationships have been crap. I give up. I want to be alone, which, there were points I did. But it has made me a better relationship coach because I've experienced stuff that I don't just know by books and different things that I was taught, but from experience, right? Like I can be compassionate and empathetic towards my clients because of what I've been through.
right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's like that's why we can take a look at our lives and quickly understand how everything that we've gone through is just the opportunity to connect with other people. All
Yes.
of our experiences are opportunities to connect with other people who have been through something similar or have maybe even walked a completely different path, but you can relate because you understand like the fundamentals of their experience, right? You can relate in that way. And I heard something, I hope I don't get this wrong, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to paraphrase anyway. It was it was like not a mantra, but it was a quote around discipline. It was like discipline is saying yes to more joy later. And I just love that because I'm like being disciplined. So let's say we're talking about being disciplined and taking the risk. What if we
Mhm.
could commit to saying yes to taking risk, even just in one area? I'm not talking like across the board. Don't like completely, throw up your life here. You know what I mean? Like take it little by little, as Carla and I always suggest, but focus on one area and
Yeah.
commit to being like, I am a heck yeah, and exploring and growing and learning and experiencing more in this one area. Create that habit of discipline. So if you're like the habit or the go-to is, ooh, I can't, or ooh, I shouldn't. And it's like, okay, what if we flip that and we're like, I'm going to try, right? So by being disciplined in something, you're saying no to the immediate result right? The immediate payoff, which would be the comfort of, oh, I don't think I should. I'm going to say no. Oh, I feel safe.
Right.
Versus being like, no, I'm going to say yes because I know that down the road, this is going to bring me more of the thing I think I want, which is the joy or the connection or the love or the thrill or whatever it is. Right. And then you're going to learn if you allow yourself to take those risks more and more and more, you will see as this unfolds that you'll become more confident. You'll become more brave. You'll be willing to do more and take more risks, which will impact like immediately impact your life. It's like a compound
Mhm.
thing. Over time, you're going to be like, wow, this is insane. The results that I've created in such a quick amount of time is crazy, but it's all been compounded and compacted over time with a simple, I'm willing to try.
Right. Right. And then you just sit down and, sometimes it's even a month. You look at even the smallest things that have happened because you took the risks, you followed the breadcrumbs, you focused on that area, and you're like, I didn't think that I could do this. My
Hmm.
belief in the beginning was, I can't do this. I don't want to waste my energy. But you decided to, like, I'm willing to take a risk in this one area. I'm willing to, like, put in the time, the effort, follow my inspired action. And then you're like, wow. And I'm going to tell you, when you look back 6 months or a year later, you're like, wow, that compounding that Shanda's talking about, you'll be like, I almost don't recognize my life before this because
Hmm.
it has changed so much.
Yeah. And it's like, what is the worst case scenario by taking the risk, right? Like, if the word, I think we've talked about this before in the past. It's been quite a few episodes now, but I'm going to reiterate because not everybody listens and remembers everything, right? So, what if our worst case scenario is the life we have right here, right now? What if that's the worst case scenario? And the funny thing is, here's why it's true. We can recreate anything we've already created.
Yeah.
We've already created this life. If we lost everything that we have, we could absolutely recreate the same caliber of life that we have right now. So this
Mhm.
is the worst case scenario. So that's a bonus to know because what's the risk then? Like, and then the second part to that is ask yourself and be super, super honest. Where are you already risking but in ways that you don't even know you're risking? Where are you risking your relationships? Where are you
Mhm.
risking your health? Where are you risking your mental health? Right?
Right.
You risk all of those things in the opposite way of what Carla and I are talking about, but you're risking all of those things in not taking those actions that you are called to take. You're withholding your growth, you're withholding your healing. So, again, the biggest part of this process is always being curious, being honest, and coming from a place of non judgment, right? This isn't to be hard on yourself. This is simply to bring the pieces to light so that we can heal them and work on them.
Right. Which is why we continuously tell you to do it with compassion and love. Because you look at the stuff, and we all have spots in our life that are hard for us. And we're like, ooh, I don't want to look there because of whatever reason. But when you're ready, when you have that compassion and love for yourself and are like, okay, I got there, but I can get somewhere else.
Hmm.
I am willing to take that risk and be like, okay, I have already been where I'm at. What if I became curious and followed that breadcrumb somewhere else? What if I took risks and something better than I ever imagined happened?
Yeah. Right. And it's funny because our imagination is a beautiful tool, and our imagination will only get us as far as we allow it. So if we
Mhm.
want to catastrophize and imagine that these worst case scenario things are going to happen, then that'll be the thing that holds us back from doing it. Versus if we can imagine the best case scenario, that will help us propel, right? It'll compel us forward to want to do those things. So why not use your imagination to your advantage? That's what it's for, right? And nobody else has any bit of control over that other than you. You are the only one who can control your imagination. So, like, hear that for a moment. You choose to make it work for you or to make it work against you.
Right.
Wow.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And anybody that says I don't have an imagination, if you listen to what Shanda just said, the catastrophizing is your imagination. Everybody can use their
Yes.
imagination. It's just your belief in, can I use it in a positive manner versus thinking of all of the, I mean, anxiety is part of your imagination going in the direction you don't want it to.
Mhm.
It's thinking of all the things that you don't want to happen. So you have to hold on to everything to not go in that direction instead of seeing all the possibilities that are in front of you.
Right. Yeah, I read somewhere, I think I had read somewhere, and I thought it was a really simple explanation of anxiety. Anxiety lives in your thoughts. It's in
Mhm.
your thinking. It's in the overwhelm, the overanalyzing. That is anxiety, right? And again, where is your imagination? It's also in your thinking,
Right.
right? So kind of going right back to what Carla was just sharing.
Yeah. It's just that we have such a physical reaction to the anxiety part that we don't realize that they're both hooked together.
Well, that's the thing. Every thought has an emotional attachment, has an
Right.
emotional reaction. We just don't notice the positive ones so much
Right.
as we notice the really heavy, dark, negative ones.
That does the
Right.
fight or flight.
Right. And so, but that again, that's again choosing to look at the darker side of things, whereas we could look at the other side of things. We could focus more on, wow, my neighbor surprised me with a homemade pie. That was so thoughtful and that just brought me joy. Like, what a beautiful thing to focus on rather than the anxiety of something else, right? And
Right.
I know for some people this will be a bit of a stretch to get into this mindset and this frame of mind, but again, we're just always offering you alternatives,
Right.
different ways to think of things, different ways to look at things, to stretch your imagination, to stretch your understanding of things, right? We're not saying, hey, we're declaring this is it, this is the only way. We're like, no, but this is a way, right? Because both Carla and I have lived this and we can speak from personal experience. And we have our own teachings and learnings as well that have taught similar things, right? So,
Right.
we're not saying it's the way, we're just saying it's a way. So
Yeah.
find what
And
works.
right. And remember that one of them you have more practice and experience in is why it has come so easily to you. And so that's why you take that risky business because then you practice and get experience in something else. And
Right,
it feels uncomfortable at first most of the time, but that's so did anything else you've ever done.
right.
A
Yeah,
baby walking, they trip, they fall, it's not, and then now we do it with almost without thought most of the time. Sometimes we have to pay attention to what we're stepping over, but it's an unthought thing. Whereas when we were little, when we were first learning to walk, it took effort, it took concentration, and that's the way it is with almost anything in our lives. If we will just put in the effort, the compassion for ourselves as we stumble, we can get past that moment and be like, look at what I've done, look at what I've created, look at what I've opened up for myself in my life.
yeah. Yeah, and it's like, where are you now? Right? Where are you now? Because all of your decisions have brought you and your thinking have brought you there, right? So, do you want more of that? And if you do, keep carrying on the way that you're doing. Awesome job. If you don't, it's time to implement change. And it could be as simple. And what if it is as simple as just taking more risk?
Yeah.
Just saying yes to more things that you already want to do. It's like nobody's trying to convince you to do these things. You already want to do them. You just get to start allowing yourself to embrace and step into them. and express yourself in those ways, whatever that is, whether it's art or singing or taking a trip or buying something, whatever it is, right? Allow yourself to be expressed through those things. That's how you come alive, right?
Right.
There's an author, and I can't remember her name right now. I'm reading her book. Lo and behold, I can't remember the name. It's like, it's one of my things. Anyways, she talks about the juice of life. And this is what I'm talking about is like, we need to embrace more of the things that we feel called to do because that is the juice, that is the joy, that is our connection. So it's okay that you feel a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit scared to do them. Sure, if we haven't been doing them, like Carla said, we don't have the habit, we're not used to doing them. Maybe we don't even know how to do it, but let's just try. Let's just be open and move forward, right? One step
Right.
at a
And see how much you get energized by these things.
time.
You're like, okay, I've been exhausted. I don't want to try it. Wait till you try stuff and see how energized you become as you do step into these things.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to share?
I just think that for those who are listening, I think really going through and really making those two lists of where do I risk already and where am I not willing to risk, right? And it'll help you really understand why you are where you're at. And then from there, you can make a plan moving forward. And again, if that's something that you need help with, then Carla and I can both sit down with you, discuss that with you one-on-one privately. You can share this with somebody who you feel like might need to hear this message as well. But it's all about being honest with yourself and having the courage to have the curiosity to explore your own life and your own inner workings. So I just want to finish with that and encourage everybody to just take the risk.
Right. And you'll be surprised when you write down what you have been taking risks, when you're really just like, okay, I'll be honest with myself, let it flow. You'll be like, oh, I had no idea that I take this many risks already. I thought I didn't because of this list that I've
Mm,
made of things I'm not willing to risk right now. And just know that there's more to us than we give ourselves credit for almost all the time.
mhm,
When we really just like sit and look and make the lists that Shanda's talking about, we're like, I had no idea I've been making risks all this time. I just thought that I wasn't because these things have had that fear holding me back on. So just know that as you allow your time, and if you have to set it down and come back, Shannon and I always say that we do it ourselves. We're like, we start and we're like, okay, I'm going to sit it down for a little bit and come back and until I feel complete. You'll
mm,
know when you feel complete. And you will be stunned at the things that you have done to give yourself that encouragement to go after the things that you have not yet done.
mm. Beautiful.
Yeah. So, like Shanda said, if there's anybody you think could benefit from our talk, absolutely share with them. And if you've not yet subscribe so you don't miss any of our juicy little conversations and our tips to support you in your growth and your healing journey. Because that's why we're here is to support you as you go on your healing journey. If you have any questions, always remember you can reach out to us at any time. There's comments. You can find us on social media. We're here to support you. Okay. Anything else, Shanda, before we say
I'm
goodbye?
complete. I am complete.
Bye bye for now.